Hi, I'm Richie from the band Sabbath Heaven. I wanted to talk about our new record that we just released called Covered. And what Covered is a collection of 20 different cover songs from bands from around the world. I'm going to get to that in a second. For those of you who don't know about Sabbath Heaven, we've been around close to 35 years, coming up on 35 years. We're a band that plays almost 200 shows a year in the Midwest mainly. We have played around the world, but most of our shows are in Chicagoland. We're a band that we play like in a cover band ecosystem, even though we have over 1,000 original songs. We've charted on the Billboard charts about 5-6 times in the Midwest. We've been major radio hits, have been on radio. A lot of our music is heard on TV shows, movies, video games, online social things. Like people use our music all the time. In fact, maybe I'll interject some clips into that. We're known for being writers. This Sabbath Heaven has always been known to have people in the band that write original music, even though we live in a cover band ecosystem. We live in a cover band ecosystem because the original ecosystem in America is a little frail. And why that is because record companies and radio stations don't seem to think people want to listen to rock music anymore. We'll get back to that in a second, but I want to talk about the Covered record. So what Covered record is, and our exposure to Sabbath Heaven is, our exposure to Sabbath Heaven in Chicagoland is pretty wide. We're played on radio stations, 4 to 5 different radio stations play our music, our original music, and in between Taylor Swift and Bruno Mars and Katy Perry on H.E.A.T stations. Even though we're more of an AOR band, there's no vehicle for AOR and there's no rock radio station. So we live in H.E.A.T, which is kind of a unique. It's a unique place for us to live, but that's the place that our music will work. We're on TV a lot. Every summer we're usually on the networks in Chicago on TV doing something. We're on radio stations. We're on billboards, movie theaters, print, and then we do our 100 festivals in the summer, and then anywhere between 150 to 200 shows a year. And we play in multiple different markets, mainly festival, club, corporate, unplugged, and original. Some shows we don't play any covers. Some corporate shows we play almost all covers. So it just depends. We're just a band that survives. We like to play, and we get along, and we have a lot of fun playing. We have a huge fan base that likes to support our band. Covered. What Covered is? Covered is a collection of songs that I think should have been a lot bigger around the world on radio and heard by the masses. They weren't heard because somebody at a record company or a radio station chose not to. Specifically, the record company just doesn't think rock music exists anymore and doesn't do anything to promote it. And then the radio stations don't allow the program directors to have some creative aspect to their career. In fact, if you go back to the 70s, at some point, some radio station had to go, this is the new Led Zeppelin song, this is the new Rush song, this is the new Kansas song, or whatever song, here's the new Beatles song. Somebody had to do that. And today, the playlist is so strict that they don't give the freedom to the DJ to have some personality, so you can tune in to this program director and DJ, radio disc jockey, to explore new music. And I think that's part of what is great about music is the exploration of learning about new music, a new band or new songs. And I think that's what makes music exciting, and it does for me as somebody who plays hundreds of shows a year. And I still am just as much of a fan of music as I am a performer and a writer and a producer. I still enjoy when I hear a new band. Some of these bands on here, when I first heard them, I just became a groupie of, and it was like, I can't get enough of this band. I listened to them on the way to the show, on the way home from the show. And I think that's awesome about music, is that when you have something that you love and you share that with somebody, I think it's a great thing. I'm gonna go through these artists on here and how did I find them and why did I put them on the record. The first song is Oxygen by Lincoln Brewster. I always go through iTunes and try to listen to some music to find something new to play in our set for the covers aspect of our band, and I come across Lincoln Brewster somehow. He charted somewhere on a chart on iTunes. And then I said, there's something about this guy, and I kept learning more about him. ended up listening to more of his music, and I was blown away on how really, really well done it was. I thought he was just an awesome, awesome artist. I learned a little bit more about him, that he was a guitar player, played on Steve Perry's solo records, and I was, when I listened to his music, I was like, our guitar styles, our phrasing, our tones are so similar, yet I had never heard of this guy. So he didn't influence me in the past. He will definitely in the future, but he didn't in the past. But I was so amazed on how similar our writing styles were and our styles of playing. I thought he was just a great artist, and we've been playing Oxygen in the set. People seem to like the song. I don't believe that was one of his hits, but I think it should have been. He plays in the Christian market. He's a Christian artist. Great artist. Definitely check him out. The second song is If You Don't Mean It by Dean Geyer. Dean Geyer is an artist that was on Australian Idol, got a record deal. This was his hit song. This song was covered by bands in the UK, but in America, we never knew that. Years later, Geyer came to Los Angeles and was on the show Glee. So I don't know if he's probably still lingering around and doing acting, but I thought he was a great singer, and he should continue singing. That song was very catchy, and I could see how it was successful in the UK and Australia, but nobody here in America even knew that song. Hopefully they will now. The Outfield by an artist called The Night Game. The singer of this band was in a pop punk band. I don't know what it was called, but our friend Roy, who works with the band, had turned me on to this song, and he said, "This is a great song. You need to check it out." And I was blown away on how catchy it was, and I was like, "Why is this song not all over radio?" And it did get some radio play, but I don't know how far it went. I just thought the song should have gone a lot farther than it did, and so we decided to cover it. Long, Long Way to Go by Def Leppard. I thought this song was an awesome song. When I first heard it, I was like, that is so catchy of a song. I don't think anybody in Def Leppard wrote it. Def Leppard's one of my favorite bands. But it was on their album X, and it never went anywhere because nobody was giving Def Leppard any chance to do anything during the grunge era, which is ridiculous to me. There's a period between when Nirvana came out till now where all the bands that had rock and pop and feel-good music and party, they just all get neglected, no matter what they released. There's been so many great records and great songs been released by some of these bands, and they're just completely overlooked. Nobody gives them a chance, which blows my mind. Because these bands are still filling stadiums, and yet nobody wants to hear the new stuff. Makes no sense to me. The Mannequin Show by a band called the H.E.A.T. H.E.A.T, the singer of H.E.A.T, Eric Gronwell, I hope I said his name right. Eric, I'd found him on YouTube singing 18 in Life on Swedish Idol, and I was blown away on how good this guy could sing. I reached out to him at that time, and he just joined H.E.A.T, and I had been following his career for a while. A year ago, maybe year and a half ago, they had him on, he came to America and sang on Jesus Christ Superstar on NBC with John Legend. And everybody was a name, Alice Cooper, they're all the big names on there, and he was the only one that didn't have a name in America. But the people who know H.E.A.T would know him. H.E.A.T is a band that lives in the melodic rock world, so melodicrock.com. That is a whole different ecosystem that we actually have a fan base at, and they ask us, will you tour? And maybe from this covered record, maybe if it goes somewhere and get some legs on it, we'll come and play around the world. We like to play. We're not a band that likes to sit around. But H.E.A.T is a great rock band. If this was 1985, H.E.A.T would be one of the biggest rock bands there is. The band's just awesome, and they put on a great show. It's not worth living if it's not with you by 1975. We think that Adam and I think this band is an excellent band. They're very trendy pop band. This song should have been a big hit for them. I don't think they ever released it as a hit. It should have been. I think it's catchy. We've played it a few times in our set. People seem to like it. Overdrive by an artist named Ola. Ola is out of Sweden, and he won the Swedish Idol. He's a Swedish Idol contestant. And he released a bunch of records, and I'm a huge fan of Ola. I listen to 2 or 3 of his records all the time on the way to and from shows. He's catchy. I've turned so many people on to his music. Como te deseo by Maná. Maná is a band that is gigantic in Latin America. I had found Maná because in 1997, 98, we were supposed to go on tour with Bush and No Doubt. Our drummer didn't want to go at the time, Dan. Didn't want to go on the time. And so we were going to go on tour, and I was trying to find a drummer that would tour with us. And I turned on Christina, their talk show, Latin talk show, and Mana was on, and I'm like, maybe I'll grab this guy, maybe he'll come on tour with us. Not knowing that who Mana was, I learned that Mana was a gigantic band. They're like the Bon Jovi of Latin America. They played 250,000 people down in Latin America. And so we started playing their song in late 90s, right around that time, 97, 98. We played Como Te Deseo in our set for a while. In fact, we released it on a Pop Life CD that we did back then. And people loved when we would play it. We stopped playing it for a period of time, and I thought it would be a good time to put it back on. We started playing it this summer in the set at a few shows. And what we do, it's interesting. Americans, we do half the songs in English, half in Spanish. When we do that, I could see at the perimeter anybody around that's from Latin America or Mexico, they are in shock that an American band is playing that song, and they whip out their phone and they videotape it. It's kind of cool to see that. Dark Side of the Sun by Tokyo Hotel. Tokyo Hotel is a band that my cousin Dino, who's also our song guy, Dino had turned me on to this band, and I became an instant groupie of this band. They're out of Germany, very catchy tunes. They have a huge fan base almost everywhere but America. They have a fan base in America, but not as large as they do outside of America. And they should be coming to America. I think the record company is dropping the ball and not promoting this band in America. That's just my 2 cents. And we've been using this song, Dark Side on the Sun, as our intro. It's a song that we know that no DJ or any sound company is going to play before we go on. And it's our way in our little world for us to know we're going on stage next. Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. We're huge Freddie Mercury fans and Queen fans. Queen has been a major influence on our band. Don't Stop Me Now was really more of a bigger song in the UK than it was in America. We decided just to cover it and bring some attention to it in America. What's Victoria's Secret by Rick Springfield. Love Rick Springfield. Awesome writer, awesome lyricist, awesome performer, and a nice guy. We've played with them, I think, 3 or 4 times. We were covered on. We covered him on his tribute record for him playing "Affair to the Heart," and I love everything Rick Springfield does. I just think he's a great artist, and the guy puts 110% effort into his shows, and I respect that. So we decided to do that song. It's kind of like the Jesse's Girl Part 2 kind of song, the kind of same vibe, and we played it a couple times in our set. 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. I just thought we should play it and put it on there because I just want to pay homage to Rick Springfield. On the Edge of a Broken Heart, Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi released a song, I believe, between Slippery When Wet and whatever the record was after that. I forgot what it's called. New Jersey? Yeah. So between those records, they never released the song on a record. They put it on the soundtrack for Delirious. It was written by Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, and Desmond Child, who wrote Living on a Prayer and You Give Love a Bad Name. I thought this song was super catchy and it should have went somewhere bigger and put on a record, and it never made it on a record. I still hear it on Sirius XM every once in a while. I thought it would be a cool tune to cover on there. Try by Pink. Nick does a great job with that, and so we said let's just do it on the record. Pink's a great artist. Hotter Than Fire by Erik Saade. Erik is a artist out of Sweden that I had found. And I think he might have been on the Swedish Idol as well. I'm not sure. Their version of American Idol. And Hotter Than Fire was his big radio song. He's a big artist in like Germany and Sweden in that area. And I just thought it was a cool, catchy song. I had a little guitar and rocked it up a little bit. Love Is on the Way by Saigon Kick. When that song came out on radio or was released, a lot of people thought that was Seventh Heaven. So I thought, why don't we just track our version of it with all the harmonies. Flicker Stick, You're So Beautiful. Flicker Stick was a band out of Dallas, Texas. They were on a VH1 show called Bands on the Run. Seventh Heaven was supposed to go and be on the season 2. If they would have picked the season 2 up, we were going to be on that show. So I'd watched season 1 and watched Flicker Stick, and I was amazed on how similar our lives were. And I was like, you know what? We're so similar in lives. I respected the band a lot. I thought the song was super catchy, and I highly respected the band. Adam got in the band and told me he was also a fan of the band, so we decided to put it on the record just as a respect because we think the band was really good. Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. We put that on because Mark does a good job with it, and it's a big song in the UK. Young Turks by Rod Stewart, great song. Adam had played it on the TV show when he was on, I think it was the Next American Band. They had played that song on TV. We thought the song was just a catchy song, and we thought why don't we cover it? Bow with the Bow by Kid Rock. Mark does a great job with it, and we thought, let's cover it. Let's put a song on there that Mark's going to sing. And so that's kind of in the gist of what covered is. We think that we can interconnect our worlds and the other band's worlds and bring rock, some synergy between the two, even if radio stations and record companies just don't think rock is prevalent anymore. I think the MTV awards were just the other day. I couldn't believe how many people in the thread were just talking about how terrible they thought everything on this show was. And I don't think it's not necessarily that it's terrible. I think what is happening is the radio stations and record companies and media are just forgetting that rock is a genre you shouldn't be forgetting. And completely neglecting. And, you got AC/DC who comes into town and they sell out an arena, a sports arena or a stadium, 3-4 nights with no hit for 20, 30 years. How do you explain that, You look at a few other factors that come into play with that. You've got Walmart, Target, and Meijer who analytically drive their purchasing by looking at data points, what to purchase. And all three of those are buying tons of T-shirts for Led Zeppelin, Beatles, Aerosmith, Kiss, Pink Floyd, and they're selling AC/DC. They're selling their shirts. They would never sell those shirts if nobody was buying them, and they're ordering them in the millions. So you're buying millions of shirts. These stadiums and arenas are selling out for multiple days, where at Lollapalooza you would have to have 80 bands equate the same eyes and ears. And you look at that and you're like, why are people neglecting rock? Radio stations, you can't even get a radio station to play a rock song anymore. They don't want to touch it, which blows my mind. Like, out of all the genres of music, rock is the longest longevity out of all of them. Still to this day. For the last 50 years of data points that we've looked at, you look at the Polestar and the SoundScan. The Polestar is where all the people are going, and the SoundScan is what's selling on radio. The Polestar numbers, 80 to 90% of the artists in the top tours every year are all rock acts. Yet, if you look at the SoundScan, what radio stations are playing and they're saying is selling on records, you won't even see hardly any of those acts. They won't even play a rock act, which blows my mind again. That's another thing that just blows my mind. How do you just negate the whole genre of music, that whole genre? If you look at when the music business was successful, those two charts lined up with each other. So the SoundScan and the Polestar matched. Michael Jackson #1 on the record, Michael Jackson #1 on tour. Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Madonna, you name them. And as they go, they matched each other. They almost were like looking at two different matching Xerox copies, but yet they were giving two different analytical points. And when you look at that, it's very telling upon when that was happening, the music business was successful. Today, record labels and radio stations won't even touch rock acts, which blows my mind to me. Because who's filling the arenas and the stadiums? Bigger than anybody, by themselves. The Stones could come through town, sell around the world, sell it by themselves. They don't need an opening act. Anybody on the opening act is going to pay to be on that bill because they're not needed. They're not bringing anything to the show. The Stones are just helping somebody out. I think 1975 was one of the bands that did that. So it's interesting to watch because I think the music business can be fixed. I have an idea at some point, and I'll make another video about it, about putting a hedge fund together and building a hedge fund where the big artists like Bon Jovi and Sting, and they're the big funders. Then they got people like me who also can invest, and then people like you that can invest. And we go back, and it's driven by the musicians. The musicians buy back the arenas, the recording studio, the distribution channels, the booking agencies, the merchandising, the publishing. Everything is ran by musicians, and this way, when the artists grow old, they don't have to sit around and go back on a reunion tour and when they don't like each other. They could just get back and get distribution checks on dividend checks from their investment that they're invested into onto an industry that they completely now they can control, influence, and help sustain. And I believe that I have a really cool idea with that. At another time, I'll get farther into that about building a hedge fund to try to save the music business. I don't know if little old me can help that, but I'm willing to come up with a solution for it. I believe that Covered is a solution to try to turn people on to rock music that have forgotten about rock music in the Chicagoland market and around the world. And hopefully around the world let people know, hey, there's still people like Seventh Heaven that write rock music and we exist. And maybe between the two, there's some synergy. And with social media, we can share that and let that become one. It's amazing what social media can do. And I look at it and I say, well, if we can connect Seventh Heaven to a lot of people in Chicago with social media, if people like our band, they can probably propel our band to go a lot farther than that. And I think our band is willing to do that. If I think that we can go somewhere and we can arrive and there'll be people that want to show up to see us play, we'll be there. And so that's what I'm hoping. Go to seventhheavenband.com. Check out everything that we have. We have tons and tons and tons of music to listen to on our music page. And we're very accessible, so write to us. And hopefully you enjoy our record. And hopefully you enjoy our original music. It's because we have over 1,000 of those songs. But check out Covered. See you soon.